Hello everybody, Matthew Armstrong here on day 38 of our 90-day challenge, transformation challenge from mediocrity to mastery. It's a great pleasure to be speaking with you again today. I'm really tired. I've been up half the night. My son just woke up in the middle of the night and he didn't want to go back to sleep again, and he needed a lot of attention, and so I am tired. But I'm here, I'm committed, you know. So that's why we're starting a bit late. I've just been dragging myself around, getting some life into my body. So I'm not going to talk too much. I'm going to straight into our reading for today, because there's about 8 pages, and it's really profound teachings. It's life-changing teachings. So what I ask is just really listen in to this. It's powerful stuff. So we're on page 222 of the Values Factor by Dr. John Demartini. And if this is the first live hangout you're watching, then I recommend going and buying this book. Go to drdemartini.com, check them out. Check out the book. There's exercises in the book that we do as we go through it. We've got about 8 pages to go to the end of this chapter on our career. Okay, owning your own traits. After this man I just spoke about consulted with me, he initially faced an interesting challenge. Once he had started creating a career as a speaker about human behavior and human potential, he began comparing himself with other more established speakers. He occasionally felt discouraged, since comparing himself with someone else with more experience than he looked up to often put him at a disadvantage. After all, some of these other speakers had been speaking about human behavior for several years, or even several decades. This man was just beginning. But now he was wondering whether he would ever attain that higher level of achievement. Often he beat himself up for not having started earlier, doubting his own ability to achieve what I had and some of the other speakers had achieved. So even though he had chosen to consult with me rather than to take my seminar, we had to engage a little bit in the Demartini method anyway. As I do in the Breakthrough Experience, I had him identify all the traits he admired in the top professional speakers he was comparing himself with, and I asked him to find out where he had those exact same traits in himself, to the exact same degree in his own unique forms. I asked him to own within himself any traits he admired or felt intimidated by in any of these admired speakers, so that he could truly understand that he had everything he needed, wanted, or admired within himself to fulfill his dream. And by the same token, he had every trait he disliked or looked down upon within himself also. Another challenge he encountered was that he left a certain amount of anxiety in charging people to hear him speak. So we had to go through my method of identifying more than 100 benefits to the customer of him charging his desired fee, and 100 drawbacks to the customer of him not charging his desired fee. This is a common problem when people are beginning a business or a freelance career. They minimize themselves and exaggerate other people, thereby reducing the value of what they are offering and worrying about charging too high a price for it. Identifying the benefits to the customer of paying your desired price and the drawbacks to the customer for your not charging the price is an effective way to dissolving the tendency to self-minimize. This problem is primarily due to a lowered self-image and an uncertain mental attitude, and can be solved by identifying your unique added values and your unique service to the customer or client. For example, if you are a consultant who is charging too low a price, you will be forced to take on more clients to support yourself. Because your price is low, you will not have the time and energy to focus on each client to the extent that you might like. By raising your price, you free yourself to have a more selective or smaller client lists. And then you can work in a more focused and effective way for each person on that list. So each client actually benefits from you charging them a higher price, which enables you to provide far greater service. Likewise, if you're a freelance worker who is charging the bare minimum for the jobs you take on, you may feel resentful or frustrated when a job turns out to take up more time than you had initially planned. Charging a more realistic price for the job keeps you feeling grateful for doing the job in the first place. Even when things seem to go wrong, rather than feeling frustrated that your price allows for no margin of error. It is of great benefit to your client to pay a higher price if that price means that you are well prepared for any difficulties or setbacks that arise, and that you will remain grateful and inspired throughout. So step by step, this man went on to build a fruitful and financially rewarding career as a professional speaker about human development and human potential. Today, he is doing what he loves and loving what he does, and getting handsomely paid for it. Becoming an entrepreneur. In Chapter 9, you'll have the opportunity to look more closely at the leadership steps that are involved in actually being a leader, whether in business or in any other domain. Here I'd like to offer a perspective for those of you who might like to become an entrepreneur. Many people have inspiring business ideas, but then don't know how to take the next step in becoming an entrepreneur or a founder of such a business. Perhaps you have a potentially profitable idea, but you are hesitant to honor that idea because you don't believe you have the skills for initiating the founding of a business and then managing your idea in a profitable way. However, what you may not realize is that here too you can delegate. You can have the idea and then assign to someone else the task of turning it into a business by selling your idea and making a profit. I have a friend in Houston who is one of the most amazing idea generators in the world. He comes up with ingenious business ideas, brainstorms them, and then works with a business planning expert and another savvy specialist involved in finance. None of them have actually led or managed their own companies long term. They just put their highly talented brains together, create business plans, and then sell their concepts and plans to people who are skilled at viably implementing those ideas and plans. My friend and his team have made millions that way. If you have an incredible idea but are not inspired about actually founding and running a company, you might want a partner with people who have specialities and can do what you would prefer not to do. Working with a team, you might be able to get your ideas off the ground and to do extraordinary things collectively. An incredible idea plus an incredible team might equal an incredible fortune. In fact, one of my clients did make a fortune from fortune cookies. He fiddled with a formula by a woman who knew how to bake that type of cookie, and then he had to figure out how to wrap it and package it. After 3 years, he sold the idea for a net of $8 million. As an idea guy, this man preferred to delegate the details to other people. But because he knew how to delegate those details, and because he was skilled at establishing teams, he was able to fulfill his vision by fulfilling what his highest values dictated to be his speciality and his competitive advantage. Any of your entrepreneurial adventures will probably start out with some form of inspired vision, one that fulfills and serves the highest values of others. Once the right hemisphere of your brain, the visionary, creative side, envisions the inspiring idea, it will crosstalk over to your left hemisphere, the practical, analytical side, sharing the initial vision. Your left hemisphere will then provide some additional structure to your visionary idea, putting it into a form that other people can understand through logic and reason. Then you might have to hire someone to put the details of your plan into action. Visionaries often require managers and technical workers along the way. That's how some companies begin, and as your company grows, you go on to hire even more specialized people who can implement each of the specific details, tasks that your company requires. You might even hire people to assist you in the development of your vision, and or hire others to help you, who can help you with management and implementation. Interestingly, many visionaries and entrepreneurs are those who perceive that they have received more challenge to than support of their highest values in early life. By contrast, those people who perceive that they had received more support than challenge often remain more dependent and keep looking for security. They usually don't become entrepreneurs. Instead, they work for other people, assuming that in this way they will receive some sense of security. But the people who felt they got challenged and maybe ridiculed and were perhaps given a lot of responsibilities often become entrepreneurs because they are accustomed to being independent and they like to think of themselves and do things on their own. Then they join with the person who likes security and who likes to build teams and put structures together and enjoys doing the smaller detail work. Of course, being a visionary is not in any way better than being a detail-focused, although it is more financially rewarding. But being a visionary and being detail-focused can be equally fulfilling. It is simply a matter of which path reflects your highest values. You might say that the entrepreneur represents the right side of the brain, the visionary side, while the detail people represent the left side of the brain, the practical side. You might also say that the entrepreneur represents the heaven force that expands radiantly outward, while the detail person is the earth force within the gravity force that grounds the idea back to earth and asks, how exactly are we going to do this? Neither heaven nor earth is more valuable. Both have their place. Although visionaries are more likely to be remembered, they would not be able to achieve their great goals without the earth force of the detail person providing a solid foundation beneath. As you can see, most successful companies are usually started with an integration of the right and left hemispheres of the brain. If you have individuals who have heavenly visions but are not associated with earthly detail people, they're probably not going to get off the ground. If you have a detail person without a visionary, the detail person probably won't take action because they're afraid to act. So we require a whole brain, including both the heaven and the earth forces, to make a viable company. Another way to think about what a company requires is to look at the world of plants. When you take a seed and put it in the ground and get water and sunlight, the plant grows in two directions. The root grows deep into the ground, while the stalk shoots high into the sky. The stalk that grows up is phototrophic. It grows towards the light. It is radiant and grows outward. The root that grows down is gravitropic. It grows towards the source of gravity. It is gravitant and grows inward. The deeper the roots, the higher the stalk can rise. So you need both. Now you have the entire package inside you, and so does everyone else. But if you grew up with more perceived challenge than support, you tend to awaken the phototropic side of yourself, the part that has expanded vision and wants to see. If you grew up with more perceived support than challenge, you tend to awaken the gravitropic part of yourself, the part that wants to take care of the smaller details and ground things so that they can be managed efficiently. These forces might also be seen as the masculine and feminine forces of the whole of nature. The phototropic person is often what used to be called a type A personality. If you're this type, you like to go for it, to compete and to tackle challenges. You are oxidative. You can handle the rust. If you're gravitropic, you are likely more of what used to be called a type C personality. In that case, you like security and protection. You're grounded, but you also like to hide in the earth. You might say you won't rust or oxidize because you're hidden safely in the moist, protective, reducing earth. You prefer not to be in the forefront or to be held publicly accountable. Now again, you have both qualities, both personalities, and all traits inside you. But if you're like most people in your public persona, you tend to activate one side more than the other. Then you require your opposite to create a whole, and so you attract that opposite. So if you're thinking of becoming an entrepreneur, you want to make sure that you are looking at the whole picture. You want to make sure that you're including both visionaries and detail people in your enterprise so that everyone can do what is most inspiring to them according to their highest values, where they can embrace both support and challenge equally. This will allow you to take advantage of the values factor. The value of your career. Imagine for a moment what your life would be like if your vocation were truly your vacation. If you loved what you did and were paid handsomely for it. If your work appeared to you as the fullest possible expression of your highest values. Imagine if you lived a life serving others while fulfilling yourself and your mission. Imagine if you're able to link your current work to your highest values so that you can find enormous meaning and purpose in what you spend the majority of your time doing. Imagine feeling inspired and clear about what your next career decision might be, whether it's staying with your current work, considering a new career path, or deciding to become an entrepreneur. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not suggesting you indulge in some kind of juvenile fantasy of not having to work at all or having wealth and success magically appear in your life without you making significant efforts to serve the world. Instead, I'm suggesting that you actively seek out the world challenges or services you find inspiring and then throw yourself into meeting them. After all, it is the challenges in life that make us grow. In fact, your mastery in life consists of precisely how many challenges you can conquer. Whoever tackles the greatest challenges, solves the greatest mysteries, resolves the greatest problems, fills the greatest voids, or serves the greatest needs, becomes the greatest being. Your goal, therefore, is to choose the challenges that you find inspiring, the challenges that help you pursue your mission and fulfill your highest values, and at the same time, serve the greatest number of people. This is a great service to the world, and that is what produces great wealth. You can find ways to make your vision become your reality when you structure your life according to the values factor. And in the next chapter, you'll discover how to use the values factor to build wealth and create financial freedom so that instead of you working for money, you can have your money working for you. Wow. So that's a lot to take in there. Maybe a bit of a paradigm shift for some, the various understandings and concepts that Dr. Demartini is talking about. Powerful stuff. But it's interesting when he talks about minimizing. People minimize themselves and maximize others. And talking about the guy who started his career and he saw other people at higher places. I had that experience myself a number of times, and still do sometimes. I remember many years ago, 11 years ago, going to a Tony Robbins seminar, and just being totally blown away by it, and saying, "Wow, I would love to do that. I'd love to get up on stage and be able to inspire people like that." But there was such a big difference between where I was in my confidence and who I was, my knowledge and everything, than Tony Robbins, right? And I just saw this big gap, and I said, I can't do that. So I minimized myself, thinking that I was like a nobody compared to him. And so that was a good learning for me, because now, looking at it now, I'm like, well, I can actually do that. I can stand up on stage, and I have enough knowledge to inspire that many people. And in a way, I've already done it through social media. Thousands and hundreds of thousands of people have watched my videos now. So in a way, I've actually already done it in a different way, right? So, you know, sometimes it's you do things in a different form than we see others doing it, right? It's amazing how we grow, you know, when we really just put ourselves on the line. I remember my first business I started up was a cleaning business, and I remember the first contract that I got with a a building contractor, and at the end of the week, I went to give him the invoice, and he was going to give me the check. And I remember my hands shaking, giving him that invoice. And when he handed me the check, my hands shaking, because I had minimized myself, thinking like, who was I feeling like, I was almost like a fake, some guy who had started a business but wasn't really an entrepreneur yet. I hadn't made that my identity yet, So I always felt like I was a fake, even though I'd done a really good job for him. And it was a very fair price. In fact, I was probably undercharging. But being shaking, taking that check. Obviously now there's just like, that's night and day compared to now. But back then, that's the way I was. So it's amazing once you just put yourself on the line that how you can grow and who you can become. And people often underestimate what they can achieve in a year. No, people often overestimate what they can achieve in a year and underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years. And I've seen that in the last 10 years. I made these goals 10 years ago, like yearly goals, and they didn't happen. But 10 years down the line, they've happened, and more. So you got to keep going. That's really important. You got to keep going. Look at the long term. Lift up your sights and look at the long term. That's crucially important. Okay, thanks very much for watching today. If you haven't, there will be a link below this that you can click on if you'd like to join my Financial Freedom Tribe and start creating financial freedom online. And if you just want to get on my subscriber list so you receive regular emails, you can also click on the link below, put in your email address, and receive regular emails and updates from me as well. Okay, thanks very much for watching, and I shall see you again tomorrow.